Amerika Birleşik Devletleri Dışişleri Bakanı, Rusya ve Ukrayna arasındaki barış görüşmeleri başarısız olabilir.
Thank you, sir. Back to terrorist designations. Last month, the State Department designated 4 European groups aligned with Antifa as foreign terrorist organizations. Could we see more designations like that in the works for left-wing extremist groups, and what could the scope
Yeah, I mean,
of
if
that
the
look
group's
like?
involved in firebombing, if there's anybody involved in, activities such as that could potentially inspire or lead to violence in the United States, we're going to designate them. So sure, if you have any we want to suggest, I will look at them. Okay, here you go. I told you we'd get to you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your patience. Mr. Secretary, I wanted to drill down on the way you and the administration see America's national interests, because you said that Ukraine is not on our continent, not our war. You said something in our own hemisphere is more important. So this involves both our commitment to the negotiations in Ukraine, which the President is passionately committed to for ending the rising numbers of deaths, he says. Russian President Putin told my colleague here, Simmons, today at the news conference in Moscow, we do not consider ourselves responsible for the loss of life because it was not us who started this war. Does the administration, does the President, you, the administration, believe that Putin was not the aggressor here? And if so, how can you reach an agreement between two parties when the aggressor will not acknowledge that he invaded a sovereign country? Let me, if I just may follow. So how do you reach any kind of compromise or ceasefire when Vladimir Putin repeatedly says, and you say that may not be what he really believes, but he has never said that he would make concessions publicly, and he's never said that he invaded Ukraine. He's always said that that is Russian territory. So why is that not in our national interest? When also in our hemisphere, if it's impossible to eliminate the threat of narco-terrorism as you describe it, with Maduro in charge, you've described the extent beyond narco-terrorism and drug trafficking of his threat. You've described it today as a threat to the region. Doesn't that mean there will have to be regime change? And is it in America's national interest to get involved in regime change in our hemisphere, given what's happened before? And why is Maduro this overriding, I mean, he is an overriding threat by all acknowledgement, but why is the former president of Honduras not a regional threat, who was personally involved in hundreds of tons?
Right. So let me take the second one for the first one. On the president of Honduras, I'm not involved in the pardon process, which is what that was. He's no longer in office. So that might be.
He was in a U.S. prison.
No, I understand, but I can't comment on our pardons process because that's not an area that I have many jobs, but that ain't one of them. So I'm not hiding from it. I'm just telling you I don't know. I can't give you an informed answer on that because I was just involved in that process. As far as the question of Maduro and his impediment, look, I've just made the observation that it's hard to make a deal with someone. Everybody says we should go to negotiation. All I'm observing, I'm just saying all I'm observing is he's never kept any of the deals he's made in the past, which makes it difficult to consider making one in the future. Beyond that, I'm not going to speculate about what might or may not happen. Ultimately, I can tell you what our goals are and what our interests are, and that's how we've defined them.
Well, in 2019, didn't he get bailed out by Cuban military, Cuban intelligence, outside forces? And so ultimately, with this blockade, is this partly, yes, Maduro, but partly to get at Cuba and Iran and the recipients of this sanctioned oil?
This action on the boats, these are sanctioned, but these are enforcement actions. That's what they are. They are existing sanctions. And therefore, 80% of their oil is shipped through ghost fleets. Okay, so we understand what we're talking about here. We are talking about boats that are basically privateers, okay, that are flying under false flags, that turn off the transponders, that spoof their true location. They are hired to evade sanctions. We are simply enforcing sanctions. Every one of these has a court order attached to it. We go to a judge, the judge issues the warrant, we're executing. These are enforcement actions. That the fact that they happen to impact a terrorist regime, is a good thing, but they are enforcement actions, and we are conducting enforcement actions. On the case of Ukraine, no one has said that Ukraine is a zero in terms of our national interests. We have sold them billions of dollars worth of weaponry. We've provided them in previous billions of dollars worth of weaponry. We continue to provide them intelligence support. And we have sanctioned. The president has sanctioned the Russian Federation. He issued oil sanctions. All the oil sanctions everybody wanted him to do, he did them. He did them a month and a half ago. All I'm saying, now you point to all the stuff about, well, you know, does Putin say this? Does Putin? That's why this issue set is difficult. I'm not claiming anything other than the fact that we understand it's difficult. We understand that you're not going to have a deal unless both sides have to give and both sides have to get. Both sides will have to make concessions if you're going to have a deal. You may not have a deal. We may not have a deal. It's unfortunate.
The U.S. should walk away from that if it is not a prime region interest because it's not in our continent.
That's not my decision to make. Ultimately, the president will make a determination if and when he feels like further U.S. engagement is no longer productive or serves the national interest. That's a decision the president have to make. I can't speculate about that. All right, yes.
Mr. Secretary, a question for you on Venezuela and then quickly on Ukraine. You mentioned Maduro was not the only one indicted by the United States in the Southern District. Does that mean it is U.S. policy that not just Maduro, but his top regime lieutenants, cabinet members, that they all must exit?
Yeah, no, I point to the indictment simply as when people say, well, how do we are alleging that he is, and I guess, you know, you can describe it any way you want. I just want to make clear, like, this is not something we came up with.
Right.
We're basing it on a federal indictment and a superseding indictment.
Cabeo's in there.
Yeah, a bunch of people are. And so, but what it proves is, and the reason why I raise the indictments is because the indictments are the point of the $50 million reward. And I believe the $25 or $10 million reward for Cabello and for others. My point is that this allegation, this claim that the Maduro regime is a narco-terrorist organization is not on the basis of political talk or speculation. It is on the basis of evidence provided to a grand jury in the Southern District of New York that returned an indictment. And that's why I point to those indictments.
Can I ask you on Ukraine quickly, because Russia has deployed its latest nuclear-capable missile system to Belarus, according to that country's leadership. We've heard from a number of European leaders, the Chancellor of Germany himself, that they think this era of Pax Americana is gone, that they are needing to prepare to be on a war footing because of the threat from Putin. Do you believe, does this administration believe today, that Vladimir Putin will end his march on the eastern flank of Ukraine? And do you stand by our European allies against any kind of attack?
Look, we have heard the same concerns from our allies in NATO. It's why we are in NATO. It's why we meet with them. It's why we talk to them all the time. I've spoken to Mark Rutte this year probably 40 times, and he's spoken to multiple people in our administration as well, multiple times. He's been here multiple times. He speaks to the president directly. It's why the United States basically is over 50% of NATO, both in troop commitments and in financial commitments as well. It's why we remain in NATO. It's why the president had a very positive visit in NATO. In the end, that's why we're in this alliance. And that's why Article 5 in the NATO alliance is important, and the president has reiterated that. We think it's a very strong deterrent against any of these fears or concerns that any of our allies in the region may have. And the president's been clear that we are committed to NATO, we're committed to the alliance, and our commitment isn't just rhetorical. Our commitment is in action, in the troops that have been deployed, in the monies that have been spent, in the capabilities that are located, in the cooperation and work that we do every single day with our NATO allies. The only thing we're asking for, which is not unfair, is for our partners in the alliance to improve their own capabilities. Because the more capable our allies in NATO are, the more capable NATO is. We're going to keep doing our part. We just want them to do more. And they've committed to do more.
But these allies are saying that they are concerned now.
Sure, and that's why we have NATO.
So nothing has changed? Pax Americana, what the Chancellor of
Germany
I don't know.
I don't know why he's saying that. You'll have to ask him why he's saying that. The truth of the matter is that NATO is the key defense alliance and agreement that has provided stability on the European continent. We believe it is stronger today than it's ever been because our allies have committed to increase their own defense spending. The more capable our allies are, we've already made our commitment. We've been spending billions and billions and billions. It's the single biggest part of the largest government budget in the world is defense spending in the United States. So we've already done our part, and our part isn't just rhetorical, it's real. We have troops stationed there, we have capabilities there, we have weapons we've provided our partners in the region as well. We believe that if you want a strong NATO, you want your allies in NATO to be stronger. The more capable our allies in NATO are, the stronger NATO is collectively. And that's why we're very pleased to see them make that commitment of 5%, with the exception of Spain. And that's why the president left our NATO gathering earlier this year so enthusiastic about the future of NATO and about our role in it. And in fact, that's why the president's been working with NATO countries on the Pearl program, which is what's providing weaponry to the Ukrainians today.
Bu web sitesi, İngilizce okuma ve dinleme becerilerinizi geliştirmenize yardımcı olabilir. Yapay zeka, cümleleri daha kısa ve anlaşılır ifadelere ayırır. Oynatma aracıyla hızı ayarlayabilir, duraklatabilir veya geri alabilirsiniz. Site, 20 dilde çeviri desteği sunarak öğrenmeyi kolaylaştırır. Tarayıcınıza enknest.com yazmanız yeterli, hemen deneyin.